Is your Rotax 122 dumping coolant? Well, this is the problem. Before I get started, I've got a few cases that I had spare laying around. They've got defects on, so if I ruin them, it's not the end of the world. So I'll start by tapping the core plug out with an M6 thread. After successfully cutting a new thread into the plug itself for extraction, I install a brand new M6 bolt. I would like to take the time and thank people who use the poll feature on my community tab. This gave me a few insights on how to repair this. This is the plug in all of its glory. Has anyone had similar problems like that? Let me know in the comments below. I'm now cutting an M8 thread into the cases. But the pole I took out is a clear winner here, so I continued what people recommended. When you tap a new thread in anything, you got to do it in stages. This is a going forward and backward movement to break the chips up in the flutes. The M8 bolt is way too large for clearance here, so it's off to the lathe. I machined the head down to a low profile finish. This ensures it won't interfere with the cylinder seating while providing enough surface area for a new copper washer to seal it tight. And it's a light deburr using a file in the lathe and cleaning out the head after once it's out. This will make the installation a lot easier. So one reason to practice on this engine, I wanted to see if there's enough material to actually do this fix on there, and there's quite a lot of material in this area. Now for the real deal. It's kind of sad really, it doesn't seem that long ago when I was putting all this together. So we remove all these hose pipes and put them into a safe place out of the way. Keen eyes would notice that this isn't original, it's an additional temperature gauge. It's always recommended to remove the battery, but always remove the negative side before you touch the positive. You do not want an arc out on anything metallic. I do like keeping the hardware all together, so all the screws and all that stay together. As you see, there is a lithium battery installed, and you shouldn't really run it on the current setup. It's way too noisy and the voltage is too high for it to cope with. I initially hoped to leave the cylinder on, but there wasn't enough room to work with the tools. So everything has to come off. I'm now removing the power valve blade out of the way. When removing hardware, I like putting all my nuts and bolts onto a tray so I know where they all are. At this point, I was still hoping and praying that I still could carry on and fix this with the cylinder in situ. So I carried on removing the exhaust hub. I need this later on anyway because I want to do something with it. I'll show you later what I'm doing. There's only a few retainers left to take off now, one holding the earth clamp off and 4 titanium bolts which I installed on the cylinder itself. So the 2 bolts at the back of the cylinder are a little bit harder to get to than the front. The front ones you can get an extension on. Here's a close-up of the pressure tester. You can see it with all of its glory there. Nice, isn't it? Shiny. Now with the cylinder safely put on the bench, it's time to make sure you don't drop nothing in the crankcase. I'm using a clean paper towel stuffed around the crankcase itself. It's just a little bit of safety here, isn't it? A precaution. So the process starts again. As earlier on the trial engine, I used a similar methods on there, but with a couple of modifications. First modification, what I didn't realise, is that my tap wrench was way too long for this, so I had to use a couple of nuts and bolts. To get the L plug out, I tapped the centre to an M6, and I used a bit of a workshop special puller here. An M6 bolt, an M8 nut as a spacer, and a brake spanner as a standoff. With a couple of twists, it popped right out with complete ease. I was well pleased with the result. As I tightened the M6 nut down, it acts like a kind of a puller, drawing the old plug out perfectly. And all that was left is a hole what Rotax created earlier for access. See, this is the plug in question. Such a little thing. Definitely ruin your day though. With this hole exposed, I'm going to be tapping the case to M8, and I will install the custom machine bolt with a copper washer from earlier. This will be solid, heat resistant seal, and will tighten down nicely, so it shouldn't ever leak again. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to say it again anyway. When tapping, always make sure you do it in small increments, like half a turn here, then quarter of a turn back out again. This breaks the chips up inside, so it doesn't jam the tap inside and break. As everything on this hardware on the bike, this would be torqued up to approximately 10 Newton meters. However, you can go up to about 18 Newton meters on M8. And just giving the piston a quick clean with 2-stroke oil, everything just wipes off. It is a new build at the end of the day, but it still needs to be treated as a new build, so you assemble everything with a liberal coating of oil everywhere. This avoids any problems later on. For whoever is watching at this point, please take the time to subscribe if you haven't done already, like and give me a comment. I probably jinxed myself in one of the earlier videos by saying that a leak at home is a headache, but a leak on the Stelvio pass is game over. And there you go, I had a leak. I really need to get one of those crowfoot adapters for these rear nuts on these cylinders. So if you want to view one of my last videos where I explained everything about all these tightening down sequences, look at the top right hand corner, there'll be a link there now. So it is pressure test time. I pumped this system to 11 psi and it held steady for over an hour, only dropping a fraction of a psi due to a tiny leak on the actual gauge itself. I can safely say that the engine is safely fixed to 100% airtight. I will be going around the whole system, spraying every single hoses and this area what we just fixed, just to make sure it isn't leaking. But as you can see, the gauge wasn't moving at all, and that was a time lapse and sped up to 80%. I'm more than happy with the outcome of this, and we can progress on to try to put everything back together again. For reassurance, I'm going to be spraying every single joint and union to make sure I've done everything up. I really do not want to have another coolant leak, so everything is getting saturated here. I don't care if the engine or anything else is getting wet with all this soap. At the end of the day, I do not want another leak. I'm now installing the power valve. This includes 2 gaskets and a spacer. The reason for this is because I'm using a 140cc Ital kit cylinder and it's needed so it doesn't interfere with the piston. Now it's time to install the power valve into the cylinder head. This needs to be fitted the correct way, otherwise again you'll cause piston to power valve damage. The next bit's a bit of a juggling act. It's 2 gaskets plus a spacer, trying to keep them in line while in a small place that you can't hardly see but only can feel is quite difficult. I probably should have put one of my bolts in just to hold everything all together while putting it in, but it's just as easy enough just to line it up while it's in place. The power valve bolts are a lot smaller than most of the other bolts around the engine on this, so that means they need a different torque setting. So this one here is torqued up to 7 Newton meters. I haven't shown it on this, but I have torqued it up off video. For whoever don't know, that's the power valve solenoid while I'm moving in and out. I'm just making sure it moves freely. You don't need to have any binds or tight spots. We now have a successfully pressure tight cooling system. It is time to put everything back together again, especially now we have a working power valve and verified that everything's moving nice. Well, it looks like I have a stowaway there. A lucky bolt. I mean, lucky it didn't fall in the engine, isn't it? So while I'm putting everything back together again, I'm going to talk to you about the charging side on these bikes. So, does anyone know what kind of charging system is used by the rectifier on this? Well, it is a shunt regulator on these. That means everything's converted as heat rather than energy. So you're actually losing power with this charging system. I'm thinking about getting a series regulator on this. This takes lots of load off the engine, so in theory you'll gain a little bit more power back. What do you think? Is it worth the upgrade? I think it will be, especially when you actually save some power through parasitic drains. So back to the video again. What I'm doing now is loosening one of the bleed areas. Originally it would have been a plastic T-piece with a self-tapper screw on top. I'm using a Motul organic coolant here, and it's virtually neat. It's got some water in there because it wasn't quite enough to fill the system. So what I'm doing is removing the air out of the system, waiting for coolant to come out the top and putting the sensor back and tighten the sensor. It's also time to top up the header tank there. I've used water because I didn't have enough coolant. Round to the front of the bike now. It's to undo the bleed on the top of the radiator to make sure there's no air in the radiator either. Once you see the coolant coming out, do it back up again. To make sure you've got no air in the system, it's a good idea to squeeze the pipes just in case. This moves some of the air out. So I'm going to give my exhaust a quick lapping using some valve grinding compound with the manifold on my lathe. This makes sure it has a slightly better seal than what it did originally. I noticed around the cylinder area it was a bit oily when I took it to bits, and I can't see that this wouldn't hurt at all, but you do need to make sure all the grinding compound is all removed after. I made sure all this is out using some standard thinners and keep moving it until it was all clean. So I'm installing the spark plug cap there, and at the same time I thought it would be a good idea to check to see what jet I had fitted in the carb. Originally I had a 155 jet in there, and I'm now swapping it out for a 160. This will make it a bit more reacher, and I can always move it back down again if I wanted to at a later date once everything's all running properly. This was the original main jet what came with the bike, so it's just going back in there to start with. It's always to be better to be richer than leaner. You don't want to be leaner and seize the bike up before it's had its life. So what are you running on your carb? Is it a similar setup? So as you know, when I was building this engine up, it is an Ital kit and it's running the red head. I've machined 0.27 off my cylinder head itself, so I've got a slightly tighter clearance on my cylinder head. Now with the airbox installed, it's time to put the carb back onto the manifold itself and the airbox. It's always recommended to use the airbox on these, as you can actually make things a lot leaner if you don't. If you are a person who's running a pod filter or something like that, make sure you always upjet. You do not want to be in a lean state on this, especially at full power. This is probably one of the most fiddly parts, is lining the airbox back up again. But I've only put the ones onto the back of it and to the front onto the frame itself. The snorkel I've got fitted on mine is 3D printed by myself. If you're interested, let me know if you want one. So let's reconnect the battery. You start with the positive side this time to avoid you arcing out on the frame. Then you do the negative. So reconnect the earth on the cylinder head, and after you've done that, it's just put in the fuel tank and the relevant fuel and vacuum hose back on the carb. This is our Rotax 122 coolant leak sorted, and one more engine case I saved from the scrap pile. If you found this information useful, please like it so others can find it and fix it as well. In the next video, I'm stepping out of the engine bay and into the helmet. I'm reviewing my brand new Rotax Atlas 4.0 and doing a full unboxing. It comes with a Shockwave Bluetooth system. As of all things on this channel, I'm going to try to improve it. I've heard some bad things, but I've also heard some really good ones as well. So out of the box, there's a few problems, but let's go through them together and see what we can do. Tweaking the mic setup and a couple of easy workshop mods will take this to a usable on-the-road helmet. If you're running an Atlas 4.0 already, or thinking of buying one, or you want to see that, I could save you a lot of trial and error. Make sure you've subscribed so you don't miss it. And always, thank you for watching. Ride it, fix it, make it. Ride safe, everyone.